The number glowed on my accountant's computer screen like an accusation. 4,800 euros every single month for the past 3 years. I leaned forward in my chair, convinced I was misreading something. Maybe a decimal point. Maybe a duplicate entry. Maybe some glitch in the banking software that would explain why I'd apparently been hemorrhaging money to an address I'd never heard of, in a city I'd never visited, for an apartment I didn't know existed. Marcus? Gerald's voice cut through my confusion. He'd been my accountant for 15 years, helped me build my architecture firm from a two-person operation into one of Chicago's most respected commercial design companies. The man had seen every number in my life. "Did you hear what I asked?" I heard him. I just couldn't answer. Because the address on the screen wasn't a business expense. It wasn't a charitable donation I'd forgotten about. It wasn't some subscription service Diana had signed up for without telling me. It was 47 Rue de Montmorency, 3rd arrondissement, Paris. An apartment, a rental, 3 years of payments, more than $170,000 gone. "Gerald," my voice sounded strange to my own ears, distant, like someone else was speaking through me. "I've never been to Paris." He took off his glasses, rubbed the bridge of his nose the way he always did when numbers didn't add up. "That's what I was afraid you'd say." Before I continue, I need you to understand something. I'm not a paranoid man. Never have been. I built my entire career on trusting people, trusting clients to pay their invoices, trusting employees to meet deadlines, trusting partners to hold up their end of contracts. Trust isn't naivety for me. It's strategy. It's how I've done business for 23 years. But in that moment, sitting across from Gerald Chen, no relation, just a coincidence of names that always made us both laugh, I felt something I hadn't experienced since I was a broke kid watching my father lose his contracting business to a fraudulent partner. Fear. "Show me the source account," I said. Gerald clicked through several screens. "That's the thing, Marcus. The payments are coming from your joint household account, the one you and Diana use for bills, groceries, general expenses." Diana. My wife of 18 years, mother of my daughter. The woman who'd stood beside me when I was working 70-hour weeks and eating ramen, who'd celebrated with me when we landed our first $1 million project, who'd held my hand at my mother's funeral and promised we'd get through anything together. Diana. "There has to be an explanation," I said. The words came automatically, defensively, like my mouth was trying to protect something my brain hadn't caught up to yet. "Maybe it's for work. She consults for galleries across Europe. Maybe she needed a temporary—" 3 years, Marcus." I stopped talking. 3 years wasn't temporary. 3 years wasn't a work arrangement. 3 years was a life. Gerald pulled up another screen. I only caught this because of the tax prep. The payments were buried in a category labeled Professional Development. Your wife has been categorizing them as continuing education expenses. Professional development. Continuing education. My wife didn't take classes. She didn't attend seminars. In 18 years of marriage, Diana's idea of professional development was a 3-martini lunch with gallery owners. "What else?" I asked. Gerald hesitated. I'd known him long enough to recognize that hesitation. It meant there was more. It meant the more was worse. "I need to see everything, Gerald. Marcus, before I show you anything else, I think you should consider— show me." He pulled up a second account. One I'd never seen before. It was in my name, my social security number, an investment account with a brokerage I'd never used, showing a balance of $12,000 and change. I didn't open this, I said. I know. The signature on the application doesn't match yours. Not even close. Gerald's voice had shifted into the tone he used when delivering bad news to clients. Gentle but firm. Someone forged your name to open this account 8 months ago. And for the past 8 months, there have been small transfers out. Always under the reporting threshold. Always to the same destination. Paris? No. Gerald clicked one more time. This goes somewhere else entirely. The screen changed. Another account appeared. This one in the name of a company I'd never heard of. Dumont Art Acquisitions, LLC. What is that? I asked. I was hoping you could tell me. I couldn't. Because I'd never seen that name before in my life. Never signed any paperwork for any company called Dumont. Never agreed to any arrangement that would explain why money from an account forged in my name was flowing to an art acquisition company, while my wife secretly paid rent on a Paris apartment and called it continuing education. That's when I realized the life I thought I had wasn't the life I actually had. And somewhere in the gap between those two realities, someone had been building something at my expense. Something elaborate. Something patient. Something that had been happening right under my nose for years, while I worked late and trusted and believed, and never once thought to question why my wife seemed so eager for me to keep working. I stood up from Gerald's desk. "Where are you going?" he asked. "Home." "Marcus, wait. If what I'm seeing is accurate, you need to be careful about how you approach this. If Diana is involved, I need to see something first." "What?" I didn't answer, because I wasn't sure yet. But something had been nagging at me for weeks. A small detail I'd dismissed as nothing. A drawer that shouldn't have been locked. A question Diana deflected with a laugh and a kiss. I needed to see inside that drawer. I needed to understand what was happening before anyone realized I was starting to understand. Gerald called after me as I left his office, asked me to wait, asked me to think this through, asked me to let him make some calls, consult with someone who specialized in this kind of situation. I kept walking. Because I wasn't thinking about consultants or specialists or the proper way to investigate your wife for possible financial fraud. I was thinking about the fact that Diana was leaving for a gallery consultation in New York tomorrow morning. Except now, I was wondering if New York was really where she was going, and I was wondering what else I'd find if I started looking. Let me tell you who I was before that afternoon in Gerald's office. My name is Marcus Chen. I'm 47 years old. I grew up in Pilsen, back when it was a working-class neighborhood full of families like mine. First-generation immigrants and second-generation dreamers. People who believed that if you worked hard enough, America would let you build something. My father was a contractor. Framing, drywall, finish carpentry. He could build anything with his hands. When I was 8, I watched him construct an addition on our neighbor's house in 6 weekends. Just him and 2 helpers, working dawn to dusk, creating something from nothing. That's when I knew I wanted to be an architect. Not just building things, but designing them. Drawing the blueprints that would become someone's home, someone's office, someone's future. I put myself through Illinois Institute of Technology by working construction summers. Graduated with honors. Took a job at a mid-sized firm downtown. Worked my way up from drafting to project management to senior associate. Then, when I was 32, I did what my father always wished he could do. I started my own company. Chen Architecture started with 2 employees, me and a part-time receptionist named Linda, who's still with me today. Our first office was a converted storage space above a copy shop on Division Street. I designed residential additions and small commercial renovations. Anything that would pay the bills while I built a reputation. Within 5 years, we had 8 employees and a real office in the Loop. Within 10 years, we had 22 employees and contracts with 3 of Chicago's largest property developers. Within 15 years, we were one of the go-to firms for commercial projects in the Midwest. I built that. Every late night, every pitched proposal, every difficult client, every moment of doubt, I built through all of it. And I did it honestly. My father used to say that reputation takes years to build and seconds to destroy. I never forgot that. So when I tell you that I trusted Diana, I need you to understand what that trust meant to me. I don't give it easily. I don't give it blindly. I give it to people who've earned it, and I believed she had. We met at a gallery opening. I was there because one of my clients owned the building. She was there because art was her world. She'd spent a decade building a career as an art consultant, helping wealthy collectors build portfolios and galleries curate exhibitions. She was beautiful, yes. Dark hair, sharp eyes, the kind of smile that made you feel like you were the only person in the room. But what drew me to her was her intelligence, her ambition, the way she talked about art like it mattered. We dated for 2 years before I proposed. We were married in a small ceremony at the Art Institute. Her family came from Connecticut. Old money, quiet judgment, the kind of people who looked at my immigrant background and my self-made success and decided I was interesting. Diana's mother, in particular, always seemed slightly surprised that I could hold a conversation at dinner. But Diana wasn't like them. Or at least, I believed she wasn't. We had Lily a year after the wedding, watched her grow from a colicky infant into a serious child, into a brilliant teenager who somehow inherited her mother's artistic eye and my analytical mind. Lily is 16 now, an honor student, a talented photographer, the center of my world. For 18 years, I thought I knew what my marriage was. 2 people building a life together, mutual respect, shared goals, regular disagreements. Yes. Diana always wanted to spend more than I thought we should. Always had her eye on the next upgrade, the bigger house, the more impressive vacation. But I chalked that up to different backgrounds. She grew up with money. I grew up without it. Of course, we'd see expenses differently. Now I look back and see the pattern differently. The first anomaly appeared about 6 months before Gerald's discovery. I came home early from work one Thursday. A client meeting had been canceled, and I decided to surprise Diana with dinner reservations at the Italian place she loved in Wicker Park. When I walked through the door of our Lincoln Park townhouse, Diana was in the study, on the phone, speaking French. Now, Diana spoke French. She'd minored in it at Vassar, used it occasionally for gallery work. But something about the tone of this conversation made me pause in the hallway. She was laughing, low and intimate. The kind of laugh I hadn't heard from her in years. Then she said something I didn't understand. My French is limited to menu items and basic pleasantries, and hung up quickly when she heard me set down my keys. Marcus? She appeared in the doorway, slightly flushed. You're home early. Client canceled. I thought we could grab dinner. Oh. She glanced at her phone, then slipped it into her pocket. I'd love to, but I actually have a call with a gallery in London in about 20 minutes. Rain check? I said sure. Made myself a sandwich. Watched her disappear back into the study with her laptop and her phone and her closed door. That night, she came to bed late. When I asked about the call, she said it was just routine business, a potential acquisition for a client. Nothing interesting. I believed her. Why wouldn't I? But here's the thing I've learned about deception. It's not the big lies that give people away. It's the small inconsistencies. The moments when the story doesn't quite match the evidence. The drawer that shouldn't be locked. The second anomaly came 2 months later. We were cleaning out the garage, one of those Saturday projects that had been on the to-do list for years. Diana was sorting through old boxes while I organized tools. At some point, she pulled out a storage bin I didn't recognize. "What's that?" I asked. She looked at it, paused for a fraction of a second, then smiled. "Old gallery stuff. Catalogs, press materials. I should probably just throw it all out." "Let me see. Maybe there's something from when we met." "It's just junk, Marcus." She picked up the bin and carried it toward the recycling pile. "Trust me, nothing interesting." I didn't push. I was tired. The garage was a disaster, and Diana had already moved on to the next box, asking me about some old ski equipment and whether we should donate it. But later that night, I noticed the bin was gone. Not in the recycling, not in the garage. Simply gone. I asked Diana about it at breakfast. She said she'd taken it to the dump with some other trash. That should have been the end of it. Except 3 days later, I saw the same bin in her closet. Lid sealed with packing tape, tucked behind a row of shoeboxes. I didn't mention it. I'm not sure why. Maybe because I didn't want to seem paranoid. Maybe because I trusted her more than I trusted my own observations. Maybe because I was afraid of what I'd find if I started looking too closely. The third thing wasn't an anomaly. It was a feeling. Diana had become distant in ways I couldn't quite articulate. Not hostile, not cold, just elsewhere. When we had dinner together, she seemed distracted. When I talked about work, she seemed impatient. When I suggested a trip, a real vacation, just the two of us, she always had a reason why now wasn't a good time. "The gallery world is crazy right now," she'd say. "Lots of moving pieces. Maybe next quarter." Next quarter never came. I told myself it was just a phase. Marriage has seasons. After 18 years, you can't expect the same intensity you felt in the beginning. I was working long hours. She was building her consulting practice. Lily was demanding in the way teenagers are. Life was busy. But sitting in Gerald's office, watching numbers scroll across his screen, I realized that busy had been her cover story. Every late-night call, every business trip, every locked drawer and disappeared box and deflected question, it wasn't distance. It was deliberate. The afternoon I left Gerald's office, I drove home in a daze. My hands were on the steering wheel. My eyes were on the road. But my mind was somewhere else entirely. Calculating, cataloging. Every memory from the past 3 years suddenly looked different. The Paris trip Diana took 2 years ago. She said it was for a client's estate sale, came back with stories about jet lag and terrible hotel coffee. But she'd seemed lighter when she returned. Happier. I'd assumed it was the thrill of closing a deal. Now I wondered if the deal was something else entirely. The phone calls she took in the other room. The passwords she'd changed for security. The way she'd started paying more bills herself, insisting it was easier than waiting for me to get around to it. All of it. Every piece. Suddenly suspect. I pulled into the driveway at 4:47 p.m. Diana's car wasn't there. She'd mentioned something about meeting Sandra for coffee. Sandra was her oldest friend. They'd known each other since prep school. They got together every few weeks to gossip about gallery politics and complain about their husbands. I had maybe 2 hours alone in the house. 2 hours to find out if I was crazy or if my wife had been living a double life. I started in the study. Diana's desk was immaculate, the way it always was. A MacBook in the center, a cup of pens, a small stack of art catalogs. The drawers were organized with the precision of someone who cared deeply about appearances. The bottom right drawer was locked. I'd noticed this before. Asked about it once. Diana said she kept client contracts in there. Confidential materials she couldn't risk Lily accidentally seeing. But why would Lily go through Diana's desk? She was 16. She didn't care about gallery contracts. I looked for a key, checked the obvious places, the small dish where Diana kept spare change, the inside of her jewelry box, the space between books on the shelf. Nothing. Then I remembered something. A few months ago, Lily had complained about losing her bicycle lock key. Diana had mentioned that she kept a spare key ring in the kitchen utility drawer, just in case. I went to the kitchen, opened the utility drawer. Under the takeout menus and the twist ties and the random batteries, I found a small leather pouch. Inside were 4 keys. One I recognized as the spare for Diana's car. 2 were house keys. The 4th was small, gold, decorative. It fit the desk drawer perfectly. Inside, I found a second phone. It was an iPhone. Older model, plain black case. No distinctive markings. The kind of phone you'd buy with cash if you didn't want it traced to your main account. The battery was dead. I took the phone upstairs to my office, found a compatible charger, plugged it in, and waited. My hands were shaking. I hadn't realized until that moment how much I'd been holding on to the hope that Gerald was wrong, that there was an innocent explanation, that Diana would laugh when I told her about the Paris apartment and explain how it was all some bureaucratic mix-up. The phone powered on. It wasn't locked. Either Diana was careless, or she didn't think anyone would ever find it. I opened the messages. There were only 3 contacts saved. No names, just initials. PDSWRM. I tapped on PD first. The message thread went back 18 months. Hundreds of texts, some short and logistical, some long and emotional, some in French, some in English. All of them painting a picture I didn't want to see. Miss you already. Next month can't come fast enough. The apartment looks perfect with the new furniture. You chose beautifully. Marcus is clueless as always. Sometimes I feel guilty. Then I remember he loves his buildings more than he ever loved me. Soon, mon amour. We just need to be patient a little longer. Everything is in place. I read for 20 minutes. Couldn't stop. Couldn't look away. The man was named Pierre Dumont. He owned an art gallery in the Marais district of Paris. He and Diana had met 5 years ago at an art fair in Basel. What started as a professional connection had become something else. The apartment on Rue de Montmorency was theirs. A love nest, a future home. A place where Diana had been building a life I knew nothing about. But it wasn't just an affair. Buried in the messages were references to money, to plans, to something Diana called the transition. The accountant question is handled. I set up the redirect months ago. He'll never see the statements unless he specifically asks for the raw data, and Marcus doesn't do that. He trusts too much. Pierre's investment account shows healthy growth. Another year and we'll have enough to make the move permanent. My lawyer says the prenup is vulnerable. If I can show emotional abandonment, patterns of neglect, we can argue it's unenforceable. His work obsession plays right into that. I set the phone down. I'd read enough. My wife wasn't just having an affair. She was systematically disassembling our marriage while preparing her escape, funneling our money to her lover, consulting with lawyers about breaking our prenuptial agreement. building a case for why she deserved everything and I deserved nothing. 3 years, maybe longer, right under my nose. The garage door opened. Diana's car pulled in. I had maybe 90 seconds. I took photos of the key messages, as many as I could capture, then powered off the phone, returned it to the drawer, locked it, and put the key back in the utility drawer pouch. By the time Diana walked through the door, I was in the kitchen making coffee. "Hey," she said, setting down her purse. "You're home early." Client meeting got moved. The lie came out smooth. I didn't recognize myself. "How is Sandra?" "Good. She's thinking about divorcing Tom. Again." Diana laughed, light and casual, like she hadn't spent the past 5 years building a secret life in Paris. "Some people just aren't meant to be married, you know?" "Yeah," I said. "Some people aren't." That night, I lay in bed next to a woman I no longer knew. She fell asleep easily, the way she always did. Untroubled, unbothered. I stared at the ceiling until 3 a.m., planning. Because here's what Diana didn't understand about me. I wasn't the oblivious workaholic she'd written off. I was the son of a man who'd been destroyed by a partner who stole from him. I'd watched my father lose everything because he trusted when he should have verified. I wasn't going to make his mistake. I was going to verify everything, document everything, build a case so airtight that Diana wouldn't see it coming until it was too late. I stayed calm. I needed proof, and I was going to get it. The next morning, Diana left for her New York trip at 6 a.m. I stood in the doorway and kissed her goodbye. Told her to have a safe flight. Told her I'd miss her. Every word felt like swallowing glass. "Back Thursday night," she said, shouldering her carry-on. "Try not to work too late while I'm gone." "I'll try." She smiled. The same smile that had charmed me 20 years ago. The same smile she'd used while stealing my money and planning to take everything else. I watched her Uber disappear down the street. Then I went to work. My first call was to Gerald. "I need flight records," I told him. "Diana's corporate card transactions for the past 3 years. Every plane ticket, every hotel charge, every meal receipt." "Marcus, what did you find last night?" "Enough." I kept my voice neutral, controlled. The same tone I used when a project was going sideways, and I needed everyone to stay calm. "Can you get me the records?" "I'll pull what I can from the accounts I have access to. But if she's using cards or accounts you don't know about, that's going to require some digging." "Then dig." By noon, Gerald had sent me a preliminary report. According to Diana's business credit card, the one I paid the bill for, she'd taken 4 trips to New York in the past year. 2 to London. 1 to Miami for a gallery opening. But buried in the data, Gerald found something else. A personal credit card in Diana's name that I'd never seen before. Different billing address. Different payment method. That card showed 9 trips to Paris. 9. In the same 12 months, Diana had supposedly been in New York and London and Miami. She'd also been flying to Paris nearly once a month, staying for 4 or 5 days at a time, then coming home and telling me about jet-lagged meetings and difficult clients. Every single work trip was a lie. I printed the flight records and spread them across my desk, compared them to the calendar we kept on the refrigerator, the one Diana updated with her travel schedule so I'd know when to handle dinner for Lily. The New York dates didn't match. When Diana said she was in New York, her credit card showed charges in Paris. When she said she was at a gallery opening in Chelsea, her boarding passes showed she was at Charles de Gaulle. She hadn't even tried to hide it carefully. She'd just assumed I'd never look. And until Gerald found that apartment, she'd been right. That's when I noticed the pattern. Every trip to Paris coincided with a specific period in my work schedule. A major deadline, a client presentation, a project phase where I'd be at the office from dawn until midnight. Diana had been timing her escapes to my busiest weeks. She knew I wouldn't notice. She knew I wouldn't ask questions. She knew I'd be too exhausted and distracted to wonder why her stories didn't quite add up. She'd been using my work ethic against me. The second evidence drop came from an unexpected source. Linda, my receptionist, had been with me since the beginning. She knew everything about the firm, including the tedious administrative details most people overlooked. When I arrived at the office that afternoon, she stopped me at her desk. "Marcus, I wasn't going to mention this, but given what Gerald told me this morning..." Gerald had talked to her. I wasn't surprised. They'd known each other for years, and I'd told Gerald he could use his judgment about who to bring in. "What is it?" Linda pulled out a file. "About 8 months ago, a woman called asking for copies of your partnership agreements and firm financial statements. She said she was from your insurance company, doing a routine review for liability coverage. I don't remember authorizing that." "You didn't. She spoke to me directly. Had all your personal information, social security number, date of birth, the works. I assumed she was legitimate." Linda looked uncomfortable. "I sent her the documents she requested." "Do you remember her name?" "That's the thing. I wrote it down, but when I tried to verify it with the insurance company later, they said no one by that name worked there." She handed me a Post-it note. "Rachel Monroe." RM, the third initial from Diana's burner phone. Someone had called my office, impersonated an insurance representative, and obtained detailed financial information about my company. 8 months ago, right around the time that forged investment account had been opened in my name. "What exactly did you send her?" "Partnership agreements, valuation reports, the annual financial summary. Everything someone would need to understand exactly how much I was worth." I didn't want to believe it, but the pattern was becoming clear. Diana wasn't just running off with her French lover. She was preparing for a divorce. A strategic, calculated divorce designed to maximize what she could take from me while minimizing what I could fight back with. The prenup we'd signed protected most of my assets in case of a no-fault split. But if Diana could prove I was an absentee husband who'd emotionally abandoned her, the agreement became vulnerable. And if she could muddy the waters around my business finances, show commingling, unauthorized accounts, questionable transfers, she could argue that the separate property I thought was protected was actually marital property. She was building a case against me while I wasn't even paying attention. The third piece of evidence arrived that evening. Gerald had hired a forensic accountant, someone he trusted for situations like this. A woman named Frances Chen, another Chen, apparently half of Chicago, shared my surname, who specialized in tracing hidden assets and fraudulent transfers. Frances came to my office after hours. "Your accountant wasn't wrong to be concerned," she said, spreading documents across my conference table. "I've found at least 4 separate financial structures that appear to have been created without your knowledge or consent." She walked me through them one by one. First, the Paris apartment, officially rented by an LLC called Montmorency Holdings, registered in Delaware. I was listed as the sole owner of the LLC, but I'd never signed the formation documents. Forgery. Second, the investment account Gerald had found. A brokerage account opened in my name, with a forged signature, used to make small but regular transfers to Dumont Art Acquisitions. Third, A life insurance policy. $5 million, naming Diana as sole beneficiary. Taken out 18 months ago. I'd never signed the application. Never had the medical exam the paperwork claimed I'd completed. Never agreed to any of it. A $5 million life insurance policy? I said. I already have life insurance through the firm. This is separate, and it has a specific feature. Francis pointed to a clause in the policy. Contestability period is 2 years. Once that expires, the policy pays out regardless of circumstances. Suicide, accident, anything. The implication hung in the air. You think she's planning to... I'm not speculating about intentions, Francis said carefully. I'm telling you what the paperwork shows. Someone forged your signature on a substantial life insurance policy that matures in 6 months. That's a fact. I sat down. The room felt unsteady. Diana and I had been together for 20 years. We had a daughter. We had a home, a history, a life, and somewhere along the way, without my noticing, my wife had transformed into someone who would forge insurance documents and hide assets and possibly... I couldn't finish the thought. What do I do? I asked. You need a lawyer, Francis said, and you need to start documenting everything. Every piece of evidence, every suspicious transaction, every lie you can prove. Because if this goes where I think it's going, you're going to need a record that starts before she realizes you know. The next morning, I called the only lawyer I trusted completely. David Reyes had represented me through 3 business disputes, 2 contract negotiations, and 1 near lawsuit from a difficult client. He was calm, strategic, and completely unflappable. More importantly, he hated people who cheated. I need this to stay quiet, I told him after explaining what I'd found. Diana can't know I'm investigating. If she figures out I'm onto her, she'll accelerate whatever she's planning. David nodded. I understand. We'll work through back channels. Forensic accountant, private investigator, everything attorney-client privileged. Private investigator? You need surveillance, Marcus. You need to know where she actually goes on these trips, who she meets, what she's doing. The credit card records are damning, but a court is going to want more than financial documents. I don't want to spy on my wife. David gave me a look I recognized. The same look he gave clients who were being naive about their opponents. Your wife has been stealing from you for at least 3 years. She forged your signature on legal documents. She may have taken out a life insurance policy with an intent I don't want to speculate about. At this point, surveillance isn't paranoia, it's self-defense. He was right. I knew he was right. But it still felt like crossing a line I couldn't uncross. Okay, I said finally. Do it. David connected me with a woman named Mariana Torres, former FBI, now Private Investigations and Corporate Security. She was professional, discreet, and completely without sentiment. I'll need the travel records, she said at our first meeting. Dates, destinations, anything you have. My team will verify her movements, photograph contacts, document patterns. How long does something like this take? Depends on the subject. If she's sloppy, a few weeks. If she's careful, longer. Mariana studied me. Based on what you've described, I'd say she's somewhere in between. Careful with the big things, careless with the details. What makes you say that? She used the same account to pay Paris rent that she uses for household bills. That's not someone who's thought through every angle. She's overconfident. Mariana almost smiled. Overconfident subjects make mistakes. We just have to catch them. Then I heard the sentence that changed everything. There's one other thing, Mariana said. Your accountant mentioned a company called Dumont Art Acquisitions. I ran a preliminary search. And it's registered in France, but it has a U.S. presence. A man named Pierre Dumont opened a gallery space in Miami 6 months ago. He lists Diana Chen as his business development consultant on the corporate filings. Diana was officially on paper as an employee of her lover's company. She was getting paid, by my money, filtered through multiple accounts, to work for the man she was planning to leave me for. The next morning, something was different. Diana called from New York to check in. She sounded relaxed, happy. Told me about a gallery she'd visited, an artist she was scouting, a dinner reservation she had that evening. Sounds like you're enjoying yourself, I said. It's been productive. This city always energizes me. I had her flight records open on my computer. According to her credit card, Diana was in Paris, had landed at Charles de Gaulle at 7:15 a.m. local time, checked into a hotel on Rue de Rivoli at 9:30, made a charge at a cafe in the Marais at noon. She wasn't in New York. She wasn't close to New York. But her voice was warm and familiar, telling me stories about a trip that didn't exist. I miss you, I said. I miss you too. She sounded like she meant it. Only 2 more days. After I hung up, I sat very still. This wasn't confusion or misunderstanding. This wasn't a wife hiding an affair out of shame or desperation. This was systematic lying, practiced, perfect. Diana knew exactly what she was doing, and she did it without a tremor in her voice. I wondered how long she'd been this good at lying to me. I wondered if she'd ever told me the truth about anything at all. The 4th evidence drop came 3 days later, when Diana was back from her trip, and I was pretending everything was normal. Mariana's team had photographed Diana in Paris. They'd followed her from the airport to the hotel to a 3-hour lunch with Pierre Dumont at a restaurant overlooking the Seine. They'd watched her enter the apartment at 47 Rue de Montmorency with a key, like someone coming home. The photographs showed a woman I barely recognized. Not physically. Diana looked the same as always, well-dressed and confident. But her expression was different. Relaxed in a way I hadn't seen in years. Laughing with Pierre in a way she hadn't laughed with me since Lily was a baby. I made myself study every photograph. Made myself absorb what I was seeing. Because I couldn't afford denial. I couldn't afford the comfortable lie that maybe this was all a misunderstanding. There's more, Mariana said over the phone. I had my Paris contact interview the concierge at the Montmorency building. Discreetly. What did he say? That Mrs. Chen has been living there part-time for 3 years. She's well-liked in the building. Tips generously. Everyone assumes she's separated from her American husband and waiting for her divorce to finalize. Waiting for her divorce. For 3 years, Diana had been telling people in Paris that our marriage was already over, that we were just going through the formalities, that her real life was there, with Pierre in their apartment overlooking the rooftops, and I'd been home, working late, cooking dinner for Lily, completely oblivious. One other thing, Mariana added. The concierge mentioned that Mrs. Chen and Mr. Dumont recently had renovations done. Major ones. They knocked out a wall to expand the living area. With what money? I was going to ask you the same thing. That afternoon, I sat in David Reyes's office and tried to make sense of what we'd found. She's been diverting funds from multiple accounts, David summarized. The joint household account, the forged LLC, possibly others we haven't identified yet. The total is somewhere north of $200,000 over 3 years. How is that possible? How did I not notice $200,000 missing? Because she was smart about it. David spread printouts across his desk. Small amounts, categorized as routine expenses, professional development, continuing education, gallery consultants, all things that made sense on paper, all things you'd expect from someone in her line of work. But the scale. You're a successful architect, Marcus. Your household accounts see significant movement every month. Mortgage, property taxes, college savings, business expenses. A few thousand here and there doesn't stand out unless you're specifically looking for it. I should have been looking. Most people don't audit their marriages. That's what Diana was counting on. I didn't want to believe it, but the evidence was undeniable. My wife had spent 3 years hollowing out our life together, taking money, building assets, creating a future that didn't include me except as a source of funding. And the worst part? She'd done it while smiling at me across the breakfast table, while kissing me goodnight, while telling me she loved me. What about the insurance policy? I asked. Francis is still investigating that. But whatever Diana's intentions, the policy exists. Your signature was forged. That's insurance fraud at minimum. Can we report it? We can, but timing matters. If we move too fast, Diana figures out you're onto her and starts covering her tracks. We lose access to evidence. She destroys documents. The whole case becomes harder to prove. So what do we do? David leaned back in his chair. We keep building. More documentation, more surveillance, more forensic accounting. When we're ready, we hit her with everything at once. How long? 6 weeks. Maybe 8. Long enough to be thorough. 6 weeks of living with a woman who was systematically destroying me. 6 weeks of pretending I didn't know. 6 weeks of watching Lily laugh at dinner while wondering if Diana had ever loved either of us. Fine, I said. Do what you need to do. Then I did something I hadn't done in months. I went home early to have dinner with my family. Diana was surprised to see me. Pleasantly, she claimed. She made pasta. Lily told us about her photography class. We talked about nothing important and everything domestic. A perfectly normal family evening, except that under the table my hands were shaking, and across from me, my wife was planning her escape. The 5th evidence drop came from Lily. My daughter found me in the garage the following Saturday, cleaning out the space behind the workbench. It was mindless work, the kind of task I did when I couldn't sit still but couldn't focus either. Dad? Lily appeared in the doorway. Can I ask you something? Of course. She came closer, looked at the ground, looked at me, looked at the ground again. Is Mom having an affair? My stomach dropped. What makes you ask that? I heard her on the phone a few weeks ago, late at night. She was in the study, and I got up to get water. And I heard her talking to someone. A man. She was laughing the way she doesn't laugh with you anymore. Lily's voice was steady, but I could see the effort it was taking. And there's this name she keeps saying. Pierre. I Googled him, and there's an art dealer in Paris named Pierre Dumont, and I found pictures of them together at art fairs. Old pictures, from like 5 years ago. Lily, I'm not stupid, Dad. I know what an affair looks like. She finally looked at me. Her eyes were wet. I just don't understand why she's doing this. Why she would do this to us. I put down the box I was holding, crossed the garage, pulled my daughter into a hug. I don't know either, I said, but I'm figuring it out. Are you going to divorce her? I don't know yet. She's going to try to make you look bad. She's going to tell everyone you were a terrible husband who never paid attention to us. Lily pulled back. But that's not true. You were here. She was the one who was always leaving. This isn't drama, I realized. It's a scheme, a system. And my 16-year-old daughter had figured it out before I did. Listen to me, I said. Whatever happens, I need you to not confront your mother. Don't tell her what you know. Don't ask questions that might tip her off. Why? Because I'm building a case. Evidence, documentation. Everything I need to prove what she's been doing. But if she finds out I know, she'll start destroying evidence and hiding things, and I'll lose my advantage. So I should just pretend everything is normal? For now. Can you do that? Lily nodded. She looked older than 16. Stronger. I can do that. Thank you. And Lily? I'm sorry you're going through this. This isn't what I wanted for you. It's not your fault, Dad. But it felt like my fault. I'd brought Diana into our lives. I'd trusted her. I'd believed in a marriage that had been a lie for years. I'd failed to protect my daughter from the truth about her mother. That night, I went through the box Diana had hidden in her closet. The one I'd seen in the garage and then found taped shut and concealed behind shoeboxes. Inside, I found the 6th evidence drop. Letters, dozens of them. Handwritten on expensive stationery, tied with a ribbon. Love letters from Pierre Dumont. They went back 5 years. The early ones were passionate and hopeful. The kind of letters you write when you're beginning an affair and everything feels possible. The later ones were more practical, discussing plans, timelines, financial arrangements. The most recent letter was dated 3 months ago. Ma chérie, everything is proceeding as we discussed. The Miami gallery is operational. The accounts are healthy. The attorney Rachel believes the prenup challenge will succeed if we proceed as planned. Your husband suspects nothing. The insurance policy will mature in 6 months. After that, we have options. I know the waiting is difficult, but we have built something beautiful, and we cannot risk it now by moving too quickly. All my love, Pierre. The insurance policy will mature. After that, we have options. I read those lines 6 times. What options? What was supposed to happen after the policy was no longer contestable? Was Diana planning to divorce me and take the $5 million anyway? Or was she planning something worse? I photographed every letter, made copies, locked the originals in a safe deposit box at a bank Diana didn't know I used. Then I called David Reyes. We need to accelerate the timeline, I said. Something's happening. I don't know what, but I don't have 6 weeks to figure it out. What did you find? I read him the relevant passage from Pierre's letter. David was silent for a long moment. I'm calling Francis and Mariana, he said finally. We're meeting tomorrow. All of us. What do you think he meant? After that, we have options? I don't know, and I'm not going to speculate, but I think you need to be very careful about what you eat and drink for the next few weeks. I hadn't wanted to think about it, hadn't wanted to let my mind go to that place. But David had just said it out loud. My wife might be planning to kill me. The emergency meeting happened at David's office the next afternoon. Francis had brought a forensic summary. Mariana had brought surveillance updates. David had contacted a criminal attorney, just in case. Let's start with what we know, David said. Diana has been systematically diverting funds for at least 3 years. She has forged Marcus's signature on multiple documents, including a $5 million life insurance policy. She is having an affair with a French art dealer. She has been telling people in Paris that she is waiting for her divorce. And she's been consulting with a divorce attorney named Rachel Monroe, Mariana added. My investigators found her. She specializes in high-asset divorces, aggressive tactics, known for coaching clients to manufacture evidence of abuse and neglect. Manufacture evidence, I said. It's a common strategy in contentious divorces. One spouse claims the other was emotionally abusive, documents incidents that didn't happen, paints a picture for the court. Judges don't always see through it. I thought about Diana's texts. My lawyer says the prenup is vulnerable if I can show emotional abandonment, patterns of neglect. She was going to accuse me of being an abusive husband. What do we do? I asked. Francis spoke up. We have 3 advantages. First, Diana doesn't know we're investigating. Second, we have documentary evidence of her financial misconduct. Forged signatures, hidden accounts, fraudulent transfers. Third, we have surveillance proving her affair and her lies about travel. The challenge, David added, is timing. If we move too early, we give her a chance to spin a counter-narrative. If we move too late, we risk whatever options Pierre was referring to in that letter. Then what's the right timing? The room was quiet. There's a board meeting, I said slowly. Next month. Chen Architecture's annual review. Diana knows about it. She helped me organize the investor dinner last year. What are you thinking? I'm thinking Diana expects me to be distracted and stressed. I'm thinking she'll probably schedule another trip to coincide with my busiest week. I looked at David. And I'm thinking that might be the perfect opportunity to set a trap. What I found made my stomach drop. Not just the scope of Diana's betrayal, though that was staggering, but the revelation of who else was involved. Mariana's team had traced the Rachel Monroe connection. Rachel wasn't just a divorce attorney. She was also the person who had called my office impersonating an insurance representative. She was a co-conspirator, and there was someone else. One of the numbers from Diana's burner phone belonged to a man named Thomas Webb. I didn't recognize the name, but Mariana did. Thomas Webb is an insurance specialist, she said. He helps high-net-worth individuals structure policies for estate planning and asset protection. Is that illegal? Not inherently, but Webb has a reputation for flexibility. He's been investigated twice for helping clients fake medical exams. The life insurance policy, I said. The one with my forged signature. I supposedly had a medical exam I never took. Webb could have facilitated that, found a cooperating physician, or simply forged the paperwork himself. Diana hadn't just cheated on me. She'd assembled a team, a lawyer, an insurance specialist, a lover who bankrolled the operation. All of them working together to strip me of everything, my money, my reputation, possibly my life. I stayed calm, I told myself that night, lying awake while Diana slept peacefully beside me. I needed proof. I had proof. More than I'd ever wanted. More than I knew what to do with. Now I needed a plan. The 8th evidence drop came from an unexpected ally. Sandra Wells, Diana's oldest friend, had been a peripheral figure in my investigation. I'd assumed she was complicit, part of Diana's support network. But 2 weeks into our accelerated timeline, Sandra called me directly. Marcus, I need to talk to you, without Diana knowing. We met at a coffee shop in Andersonville, far from anywhere Diana would think to look. Sandra was nervous. I'd never seen her nervous before. She was usually the most composed person in any room. I don't know how much you know, she said without preamble. But Diana has been lying to you for years, and I've been helping her cover for it. I didn't say anything, just waited. The coffee dates, the shopping trips, the nights she said we were at the theater together. Sandra looked at the table. She wasn't with me. I was her alibi. Why are you telling me this now? Because it's gone too far. Sandra finally met my eyes. I thought I was helping a friend escape an unhappy marriage. Diana told me you were cold, distant, that you put work before everything. She made it sound like she deserved to find happiness somewhere else. And now? I found out about the insurance policy. My spine straightened. Diana mentioned it at lunch last week. She was different, excited in a way that felt wrong. She said, every Chicago's most respected commercial design companies. The man had seen every number in my life. Did you hear what I asked? I heard him. I just couldn't answer. Because the address on the screen wasn't a business expense. It wasn't a charitable donation I'd forgotten about. It wasn't some subscription service Diana had signed up for without telling me. It was 47 Rue de Montmorency, 3rd arrondissement, Paris. An apartment, a rental, 3 years of payments, more than $170,000, gone. Gerald, my voice sounded strange to my own ears, distant, like someone else was speaking through me. I've never been to Paris. He took off his glasses, rubbed the bridge of his nose the way he always did when numbers didn't add up. That's what I was afraid you'd say. Before I continue, I need you to understand something. I'm not a paranoid man. Never have been. I built my entire career on trusting people, trusting clients to pay their invoices, trusting employees to meet deadlines, trusting partners to hold up their end of contracts. Trust isn't naivety for me. It's strategy. It's how I've done business for 23 years. But in that moment, sitting across from Gerald Chen, no relation, just a coincidence of names that always made us both laugh, I felt something I hadn't experienced since I was a broke kid watching my father lose his contracting business to a fraudulent partner. Fear. Show me the source account, I said. Gerald clicked through several screens. That's the thing, Marcus. The payments are coming from your joint household account, the one you and Diana use for bills, groceries, general expenses. Diana, my wife of 18 years, mother of my daughter. The woman who'd stood beside me when I was working 70-hour weeks and eating ramen, who'd celebrated with me when we landed our first $1 million project, who'd held my hand at my mother's funeral and promised we'd get through anything together. Diana. There has to be an explanation, I said. The words came automatically, defensively, like my mouth was trying to protect something my brain hadn't caught up to yet. Maybe it's for work. She consults for galleries across Europe. Maybe she needed a temporary 3 years, Marcus. I stopped talking. 3 years wasn't temporary. 3 years wasn't a work arrangement. 3 years was a life. Gerald pulled up another screen. I only caught this because of the tax prep. The payments were buried in a category labeled Professional Development. Your wife has been categorizing them as continuing education expenses. Professional development. Continuing education. My wife didn't take classes. She didn't attend seminars. In 18 years of marriage, Diana's idea of professional development was a 3-martini lunch with gallery owners. What else? I asked. Gerald hesitated. I'd known him long enough to recognize that hesitation. It meant there was more. It meant the more was worse. I need to see everything, Gerald. Marcus, before I show you anything else, I think you should consider. Show me. He pulled up a second account. One I'd never seen before. It was in my name, my social security number, an investment account with a brokerage I'd never used, showing a balance of $12,000 and change. I didn't open this, I said. I know. The signature on the application doesn't match yours. Not even close. Gerald's voice had shifted into the tone he used when delivering bad news to clients. Gentle but firm. Someone forged your name to open this account 8 months ago, and for the past 8 months, there have been small transfers out, always under the reporting threshold, always to the same destination. Paris? No. Gerald clicked one more time. This goes somewhere else entirely. The screen changed. Another account appeared. This one in the name of a company I'd never heard of. Dumont Art Acquisitions, LLC. What is that? I asked. I was hoping you could tell me. I couldn't, because I'd never seen that name before in my life. Never signed any paperwork for any company called Dumont. Never agreed to any arrangement that would explain why money from an account forged in my name was flowing to an art acquisition company, while my wife secretly paid rent on a Paris apartment and called it continuing education. That's when I realized the life I thought I had wasn't the life I actually had. And somewhere in the gap between those two realities, someone had been building something at my expense. Something elaborate. Something patient. Something that had been happening right under my nose for years, while I worked late and trusted and believed, and never once thought to question why my wife seemed so eager for me to keep working. I stood up from Gerald's desk. "Where are you going?" he asked. "Home." "Marcus, wait. If what I'm seeing is accurate, you need to be careful about how you approach this. If Diana is involved, I need to see something first." "What?" I didn't answer, because I wasn't sure yet. But something had been nagging at me for weeks. A small detail I'd dismissed as nothing. A drawer that shouldn't have been locked. A question Diana deflected with a laugh and a kiss. I needed to see inside that drawer. I needed to understand what was happening before anyone realized I was starting to understand. Gerald called after me as I left his office, asked me to wait, asked me to think this through, asked me to let him make some calls, consult with someone who specialized in this kind of situation. I kept walking, because I wasn't thinking about consultants or specialists or the proper way to investigate your wife for possible financial fraud. I was thinking about the fact that Diana was leaving for a gallery consultation in New York tomorrow morning. Except now, I was wondering if New York was really where she was going, and I was wondering what else I'd find if I started looking. Let me tell you who I was before that afternoon in Gerald's office. My name is Marcus Chen. I'm 47 years old. I grew up in Pilsen, back when it was a working-class neighborhood full of families like mine. First-generation immigrants and second-generation dreamers. People who believed that if you worked hard enough, America would let you build something. My father was a contractor. Framing, drywall, finish carpentry. He could build anything with his hands. When I was 8, I watched him construct an addition on our neighbor's house in 6 weekends. Just him and 2 helpers, working dawn to dusk, creating something from nothing. That's when I knew I wanted to be an architect. Not just building things, but designing them. Drawing the blueprints that would become someone's home, someone's office, someone's future. I put myself through Illinois Institute of Technology by working construction summers. Graduated with honors. Took a job at a mid-sized firm downtown. Worked my way up from drafting to project management to senior associate. Then, when I was 32, I did what my father always wished he could do. I started my own company. Chen Architecture started with 2 employees, me and a part-time receptionist named Linda, who's still with me today. Our first office was a converted storage space above a copy shop on Division Street. I designed residential additions and small commercial renovations. Anything that would pay the bills while I built a reputation. Within 5 years, We had 8 employees and a real office in the Loop. Within 10 years, we had 22 employees and contracts with 3 of Chicago's largest property developers. Within 15 years, we were one of the go-to firms for commercial projects in the Midwest. I built that. Every late night, every pitched proposal, every difficult client, every moment of doubt, I built through all of it. And I did it honestly. My father used to say that reputation takes years to build and seconds to destroy. I never forgot that. So when I tell you that I trusted Diana, I need you to understand what that trust meant to me. I don't give it easily. I don't give it blindly. I give it to people who've earned it, and I believed she had. We met at a gallery opening. I was there because one of my clients owned the building. She was there because art was her world. She'd spent a decade building a career as an art consultant, helping wealthy collectors build portfolios and galleries curate exhibitions. She was beautiful, yes. Dark hair, sharp eyes, the kind of smile that made you feel like you were the only person in the room. But what drew me to her was her intelligence, her ambition, the way she talked about art like it mattered. We dated for 2 years before I proposed. We were married in a small ceremony at the Art Institute. Her family came from Connecticut. Old money, quiet judgment, the kind of people who looked at my immigrant background and my self-made success and decided I was interesting. Diana's mother, in particular, always seemed slightly surprised that I could hold a conversation at dinner. But Diana wasn't like them. Or at least, I believed she wasn't. We had Lily a year after the wedding, watched her grow from a colicky infant into a serious child, into a brilliant teenager who somehow inherited her mother's artistic eye and my analytical mind. Lily is 16 now, an honor student, a talented photographer, the center of my world. For 18 years, I thought I knew what my marriage was. 2 people building a life together, mutual respect, shared goals, regular disagreements. Yes. Diana always wanted to spend more than I thought we should. Always had her eye on the next upgrade, the bigger house, the more impressive vacation. But I chalked that up to different backgrounds. She grew up with money. I grew up without it. Of course, we'd see expenses differently. Now I look back and see the pattern differently. The first anomaly appeared about 6 months before Gerald's discovery. I came home early from work one Thursday. A client meeting had been canceled, and I decided to surprise Diana with dinner reservations at the Italian place she loved in Wicker Park. When I walked through the door of our Lincoln Park townhouse, Diana was in the study, on the phone, speaking French. Now, Diana spoke French. She'd minored in it at Vassar, used it occasionally for gallery work. But something about the tone of this conversation made me pause in the hallway. She was laughing, low and intimate. The kind of laugh I hadn't heard from her in years. Then she said something I didn't understand. My French is limited to menu items and basic pleasantries, and hung up quickly when she heard me set down my keys. Marcus? She appeared in the doorway, slightly flushed. You're home early. Client canceled. I thought we could grab dinner. Oh. She glanced at her phone, then slipped it into her pocket. I'd love to, but I actually have a call with a gallery in London in about 20 minutes. Rain check? I said sure. Made myself a sandwich. Watched her disappear back into the study with her laptop and her phone and her closed door. That night, she came to bed late. When I asked about the call, she said it was just routine business, a potential acquisition for a client. Nothing interesting. I believed her. Why wouldn't I? But here's the thing I've learned about deception. It's not the big lies that give people away. It's the small inconsistencies. The moments when the story doesn't quite match the evidence. The drawer that shouldn't be locked. The second anomaly came 2 months later. We were cleaning out the garage, one of those Saturday projects that had been on the to-do list for years. Diana was sorting through old boxes while I organized tools. At some point, she pulled out a storage bin I didn't recognize. "What's that?" I asked. She looked at it, paused for a fraction of a second, then smiled. "Old gallery stuff. Catalogs, press materials. I should probably just throw it all out." "Let me see. Maybe there's something from when we met." "It's just junk, Marcus." She picked up the bin and carried it toward the recycling pile. "Trust me, nothing interesting." "Pierre Dumont," I said. "I'm Marcus Chen, Diana's husband." Pierre's smile faltered. "I know who you are," he said. His English was accented but clear. "Diana has told me about you." "I'm sure she has. She's been telling people about me for 3 years. The absentee husband. The emotionally unavailable workaholic." I pulled out a chair and sat down uninvited. "But Diana has a habit of telling stories that aren't quite true." "Marcus, what are you doing here?" Diana's voice was carefully controlled. She was recovering from the shock, rebuilding her composure. "How did you even know?" "I know everything, Diana." That stopped her. "Everything about what?" I reached into my jacket, pulled out a folder, set it on the table between the wine glasses and the bread basket. The apartment on Rue de Montmorency. 3 years of rent payments from our joint account. The forged LLC in my name. The investment account opened with my stolen signature. The transfers to Dumont Art Acquisitions. I opened the folder, showed them the first document. The life insurance policy, $5 million. Forged application, fake medical exam. Diana's face went white. "I don't know what you think you found, but I think I've found that my wife has been systematically stealing from me while planning to either divorce me or kill me. I'm not sure which. The letters from Pierre suggest you were keeping your options open." "Letters?" Pierre looked at Diana. "What letters?" "The ones Diana kept in a box in her closet. The ones you signed, 'All my love, Pierre.' The ones that discuss the insurance policy and options after it matures." Diana's composure cracked. Just for a moment. Just enough for me to see the fear underneath. "This is insane," she said. "Marcus, you can't seriously believe." "I believe evidence, and the evidence is comprehensive." I spread documents across the table. Flight records, bank statements, surveillance photographs, the forensic accounting report. I have documentation of every lie you've told, every dollar you've stolen, every forgery you've committed. I have testimony from Sandra Wells about how you used her as an alibi while building this secret life. I have statements from the concierge in your building, the hotel staff where Pierre stayed in Chicago, the insurance specialist Thomas Webb who helped you fake my medical exam. Pierre stood up. "Diana, what is he talking about?" "Sit down," I said. "We're not finished. I don't take orders from you." "You're right. But in about 30 seconds, 2 investigators from my legal team are going to enter this restaurant. If you try to leave, they'll detain you. Not legally. They're not police. But they're very good at being persuasive." Pierre looked toward the door, then at Diana, then back at me. He sat down. "What do you want?" Diana asked. Her voice had changed, colder now, the mask finally slipping. "I want you to understand that it's over. All of it. The affair, the theft, the scheme, whatever you were planning with that insurance policy. Over. You don't have any proof of..." "Diana." I leaned forward. "I have everything. text messages from your burner phone, emails from your cloud backup, letters in Pierre's handwriting. I have you on camera meeting Pierre at the Four Seasons, while you told me you were at a spa with Sandra. I have your flight records proving you were in Paris when you claimed to be in New York. I have forensic analysis of every forged signature, every fraudulent transfer, every fake document. Diana was silent. The divorce papers are already filed in Chicago. You'll be served tomorrow. My lawyer has copies of everything I just showed you. Multiple copies, in multiple locations. All protected by attorney-client privilege. If anything happens to me, anything at all, those files go straight to federal prosecutors. Federal prosecutors? Pierre's voice cracked. Insurance fraud, wire fraud, identity theft, conspiracy. I looked at him. You're a French citizen with property and business interests in the United States. How do you think those charges will affect your visa status? Pierre turned to Diana. You told me he wouldn't find out. You said he was too focused on his work to notice anything. He shouldn't have. Diana's voice was bitter. My accountant found one thing, one out-of-place payment. That's all it took. I gathered the documents back into the folder. You were so confident, Diana, so certain that I was too stupid or too distracted to see what you were doing. But you made mistakes, small ones. The kind of mistakes people make when they're overconfident. This isn't. It's exactly what you think it is. The end. Diana looked at me. Really looked. And for the first time since I'd discovered her secret, I saw something genuine in her eyes. Hatred. You think you've won, she said quietly. You think this is over. I don't think anything. I know. You don't know anything about what I'm capable of. I know exactly what you're capable of. That's why I brought lawyers and investigators and documentation instead of just confronting you in private. I stood up. The life you built here, this apartment, this relationship, this future, it's gone. You can try to fight the divorce. You can try to spin a story about what an abusive husband I was, but everything you told people was a lie, and I can prove it. I'll destroy you. You already tried. I put the folder in my jacket. You failed. I turned and walked toward the door. Behind me, I heard Pierre's voice rising, angry, confused, demanding explanations. I heard Diana trying to calm him, trying to salvage something, but there was nothing to salvage. Not anymore. Outside, Mariana was waiting. That was... She trailed off. Intense. Did you get it? Audio and video, the whole thing. Admissions, threats, all of it. Good. We walked through the evening crowds of the Morels. Tourists, locals, people living normal lives. What happens now? Mariana asked. Now I go home. Tell my daughter the truth. Sign the divorce papers. Rebuild. And Diana? Diana faces the consequences. All of them. The flight back to Chicago felt longer than the flight out. I sat in business class, watching clouds drift past the window, thinking about everything that had happened, everything that was about to happen. Diana would fight. I knew that. She'd hire the best divorce lawyers money could buy. My money still, at least for now. She'd try every tactic in the book. She'd accuse me of things I didn't do. She'd make Lily choose sides. But I had the evidence. I had the documentation. I had witnesses willing to testify about everything she'd planned. And I had something else, too. I had the knowledge that I'd seen through her, that despite everything she'd done, everything she'd tried, I'd figured it out in time. She'd underestimated me, and that underestimation would cost her everything. The divorce proceedings began a week later. Diana retained Rachel Monroe, the same attorney who'd impersonated an insurance representative to steal my financial information. David immediately moved to have her disqualified. The judge, after reviewing the evidence of Rachel's involvement in the scheme, agreed. Diana had to find new counsel. Her second attorney was competent, but hadn't been briefed on 3 years of planning. He was working with a narrative Diana had constructed: the abused wife, the neglected mother, the woman driven to desperate measures by an emotionally unavailable husband. David destroyed that narrative in the first hearing. Surveillance photographs, flight records, financial documentation, Sandra Wells's testimony, the forged insurance policy, the letters from Pierre. Every piece of evidence landed like a hammer blow. Diana's attorney asked for a recess, then another, then a continuance. The judge denied all 3. "Mrs. Chen," the judge said, looking at Diana with something between contempt and exhaustion, "the evidence presented here shows a sustained pattern of financial fraud, document forgery, and deception. You diverted over $200,000 from marital accounts. You forged your husband's signature on legal documents. You took out a life insurance policy under fraudulent pretenses. Your Honor, Your client is fortunate that Mr. Chen has chosen to pursue this through divorce court rather than criminal prosecution, though I understand that option remains available should Mrs. Chen choose to contest these proceedings in bad faith." Diana's face was stone. "The prenuptial agreement is enforceable," the judge continued. "Separate property remains separate. Marital assets will be divided according to standard formula, minus the funds Mrs. Chen diverted, which will be returned to Mr. Chen as part of the settlement." "And custody?" Diana's voice was barely audible. "Given the circumstances, I'm awarding primary custody to Mr. Chen. You'll have supervised visitation pending a psychological evaluation and completion of a court-approved counseling program." Diana looked at me across the courtroom. I looked back. No words were necessary. The aftermath came in pieces. Pierre's gallery in Miami closed 6 months after the divorce was finalized. His visa was revoked after the insurance fraud charges were referred to federal prosecutors. I don't know what happened to him after he returned to France. I don't care. Thomas Webb, the insurance specialist, was arrested for his role in the fake medical exam. He pled guilty to a lesser charge in exchange for testimony. The last I heard, he lost his license and was working as a claims adjuster somewhere in the Midwest. Rachel Monroe was disbarred. Her involvement in the scheme, impersonating an insurance representative, stealing financial documents, coaching Diana on how to manufacture false abuse claims, was enough to end her career. She tried to appeal, failed, and Diana moved into a small apartment in Wicker Park after the divorce was final. Her consulting business dried up once word spread about what she'd done. The art world is small. People talk. She tried to contact Lily a few times, called the house, sent letters. But Lily had seen the evidence too. All of it, including the email where Diana described her as leverage. Teenagers might be resilient, like Diana said, but they're also perceptive. Lily understood exactly who her mother was. She chose not to respond. The settlement gave me back most of what Diana had stolen. The apartment in Paris, which Diana had purchased with my money and put in her name, was sold. The proceeds went toward Lily's college fund. I kept the house, kept the firm, kept my life, more or less intact. But something had changed. I'd spent 18 years trusting someone who saw me as a resource to be exploited, who'd smiled at me every morning while planning to take everything I had, who'd used our daughter as a chess piece in a game I didn't know I was playing. I'd believed in a marriage that was a performance, a family that was a facade. That kind of revelation doesn't heal quickly, maybe doesn't heal at all. The day after the final divorce decree was signed, I sat in my office and looked at the skyline. 23 years of building, Chen architecture, my reputation, my life. All of it had almost been taken by someone who claimed to love me. Gerald knocked on the door. "You okay?" "I don't know." Honesty felt easier now. I don't know if I'll ever be okay the way I was before. That's probably true. Thanks for the reassurance. Gerald smiled, came in, sat down across from me. You know what I've learned in 30 years of accounting? What? Numbers don't lie. People lie, documents lie, stories lie. But numbers, if you look carefully enough, if you trace them back far enough, numbers always tell the truth. Is that supposed to make me feel better? It's supposed to make you feel prepared. Because now you know, if something doesn't add up, you look closer. You ask questions. You verify. Trust, but verify. Exactly. I turned back to the window. She was so good at it, Gerald. The lying, the smiling, the pretending. For years. I lived with her every day, and I had no idea. No one would have. Not without reason to look. But I should have had reason. The small things, the locked drawer, the phone calls in French, the trips that didn't quite match the stories. You trusted your wife. That's not a character flaw. It feels like one right now. Gerald was quiet for a moment. You know what my grandmother used to say? The snake doesn't announce itself before it bites. Diana was a snake. She didn't announce herself. That's not your failure, that's her deception. Wise grandmother. She survived the war. She knew a few things about people who pretend to be something they're not. I let that sit. What happens now? Gerald asked. Now I rebuild, go home, be a father, run the company, try to figure out who I am when I'm not married to someone who was planning to destroy me. That sounds like a solid plan. It's the only one I've got. 6 months after the divorce was finalized, I took Lily to Paris. Not to the Marais, not to Rue de Montmorency, not anywhere Diana had built her secret life. We went to Montmartre, the Sacré-Cœur, the Musée d'Orsay, the places you visit when you're seeing Paris for the first time, for real. This is weird, Lily said as we walked along the Seine. Being here. I know. Mom lived here, with Pierre, while we were back in Chicago, thinking everything was normal. Does it bother you? Being in the same city? Lily thought about it. No. I think it bothers me more that I didn't know. That I thought we had a family and it was all, I don't know, fake. Not all of it. What do you mean? I stopped walking, turned to face her. You and me, that was never fake. Every dinner, every conversation. Every time I helped you with homework, or drove you to school, or sat up late because you were worried about something. That was real. I know. And your mother, whatever else she was, she loved you in her own way. Lily made a face. No, listen. She was wrong. What she did was wrong, and I'll never defend it. But the part of her that showed up for your plays and helped you with your applications and took you shopping when you needed a dress for homecoming, that was real too. Then why did she do all the rest? I didn't have a good answer. Some people can hold two things at once. Love someone and still hurt them. Care about their child and still treat them as a tool. Your mother isn't a monster. She's a person who made terrible choices. That sounds like you're making excuses for her. I'm trying to explain. There's a difference. I started walking again. Lily fell into step beside me. You're going to have to decide for yourself what relationship you want with her. Maybe someday you'll want to reconnect. Maybe you won't. But that's your choice, not mine. What if I never want to see her again? Then you never see her again. I won't force you. Lily was quiet. She sent me a letter last week, she said finally. Apologizing, explaining, asking if we could talk. I didn't know that. I haven't decided what to do about it yet. Take your time. We walked in silence for a while, crossed a bridge, watched the boats go by. Dad? Yeah? How did you stay so calm through all of it? Finding out, investigating, the divorce. You never lost it. Not once. I lost it plenty. Just not where anyone could see. That's what I mean. How do you do that? Hold it together when everything is falling apart? I considered the question. When I was 22, I watched my father's business partner clean out their joint accounts and disappear. My dad had trusted this man for 15 years. They'd built a company together. And in one day, it was all gone. What happened? My dad couldn't handle it. The betrayal broke something in him. He never worked again, not really. He drank. He blamed himself. He died of a heart attack at 61. Lily's face was somber. I decided then that I'd never let betrayal destroy me the way it destroyed him. That if someone ever tried to take everything from me, I'd fight back. Carefully, strategically, without letting the anger consume me. So when I was angry, furious, hurt in ways I can't even describe, but I'd trained myself all those years to channel those feelings into action, into evidence, into a plan. That's kind of intense, Dad. Probably, I smiled a little. But it worked. It did. We found a cafe near the Tuileries, ordered coffee and croissants, sat outside and watched the autumn light filter through the trees. I've been thinking about what I want to do after graduation, Lily said. Tell me. I want to study photography, not just as a hobby, as a career. Documentary photography, telling stories through images. That sounds amazing. You're not going to tell me to be practical, get a business degree? Would it matter if I did? Lily laughed. No. Then why would I waste my breath? You know what you want. You're smart enough to figure out how to make it work. All I can do is support you. Even if it means I'm broke for 10 years? Even then. She reached across the table and squeezed my hand. Thanks, Dad. For what? For being you. For not being her. I squeezed back. Always. The quiet closure came one evening, almost a year after the divorce. I was home alone. Lily was at a friend's house. The firm was running smoothly. Life had settled into something that resembled normalcy. I found myself in the study, the room that had once been Diana's domain. I'd redecorated it months ago. New desk, new shelves. No trace of who had worked here before. But I'd kept one thing. In the bottom drawer, the one that used to be locked, I'd placed the folder. The original evidence folder with Diana's letters, the photographs, the documents that had saved me. I opened it, read through some of the pages. Not all of them. Just enough to remember. Then I closed it, put it back in the drawer, locked it. Not because I was afraid of Diana anymore, but because I wanted to remember. Wanted the reminder that trust has to be earned, that appearances can deceive, that the people closest to us can have agendas we never suspect. I walked to the window, looked at the Chicago skyline, the same view I'd looked at 1,000 times before. Everything was different now, and somehow, also the same. The firm was thriving, Lily was thriving, I was figuring it out, day by day, one foot in front of the other. Was I happy? I didn't know, but I was alive. I was free. I was building something real, and that, I decided, was enough. If you're watching this, if you've made it this far, let me leave you with one thought. Trust is essential. You can't build a life, a business, a family without it. But trust without vigilance is vulnerability. The people who want to take advantage of you are counting on your trust. They're counting on your belief in their goodness. They're counting on you not to look too closely at the things that don't add up. So trust, but verify. Pay attention to the small things. The locked drawers. The phone calls that end abruptly. The explanations that don't quite fit the evidence. Numbers don't lie, Gerald told me. That's true. And neither do patterns, if you're willing to see them. I almost lost everything because I wasn't paying attention. Because I was too busy with work, too committed to my marriage, too confident that the person I'd chosen would never hurt me. I got lucky. I found out in time. I had the resources and the support to fight back. Not everyone does. So watch, listen, ask questions. And when something doesn't feel right, don't dismiss it. Don't tell yourself you're being paranoid. Don't let the fear of what you might find keep you from looking. Because the truth, however painful, is always better than the lie. Diana thought she knew me. Thought I was predictable, easy to fool, too focused on my buildings to notice what was happening in my own home. She was wrong. And if you ever find yourself in a similar situation, if someone underestimates you, thinks they can take what's yours, assumes you won't fight back, prove them wrong. Do it calmly, do it strategically, build your case, gather your evidence, and when you're ready, when the trap is set and the pieces are in place, strike. Not with anger, not with revenge, with truth. That's all I did. I found the truth. I documented it. I let it speak. And in the end, the truth was enough. It's been 2 years now since Gerald first asked me about that Paris apartment. 2 years since my life split into before and after. I'm in a different place now. Not geographically, still in Chicago, still running the firm, still in the same house where Lily learned to walk and Diana learned to lie. But internally, I'm somewhere new. I date occasionally. Nothing serious yet. It's hard to open up after what happened. Hard to believe that anyone is who they say they are. But I'm trying. Working through it with a therapist who specializes in betrayal trauma. Taking it slow, Lily graduated high school last spring. She's at NYU now, studying photography like she wanted. She sends me pictures from the city. Street scenes, portraits, moments of light and shadow that make me think she's going to be just fine. She hasn't reconnected with Diana. Not yet. Maybe not ever. That's her choice to make. The firm landed our biggest project last month. A sustainable mixed-use development in the South Loop. 300 units of housing, retail space, green roofs, the whole thing designed to LEED Platinum standards. The kind of project that takes years to complete and defines a career. I'm proud of it. Proud of what we've built. But I'm prouder of something else. I'm proud that I survived. That Diana's scheme didn't destroy me the way my father's betrayal destroyed him. That when someone tried to take everything, I fought back and won. Not everyone gets that chance. Not everyone has the resources, the support, the luck to catch the lie in time. But if you're watching this and you're in a similar situation, if something doesn't add up and you're afraid to look closer, look anyway. The truth might hurt. It probably will. But the alternative is worse. The alternative is Diana's plan succeeding. The alternative is waking up one day to find that everything you built is gone, taken by someone you trusted. Don't let that happen. Stay calm. Gather evidence. Build your case. And when the time comes, use it. That's my story. I've told it as honestly as I know how. The good parts and the bad parts. The moments of clarity and the moments of doubt. If it helped you, if it gave you something to think about, something to watch for, something to remember, then it was worth telling. That's all for now. Take care of yourselves and pay attention to where your money's going. You never know what you might find. 6 months later, the call came on a Tuesday afternoon. I was in a meeting with a new client, a real estate developer who wanted us to design a boutique hotel in River North. We were reviewing preliminary sketches when Linda knocked on the conference room door. "Marcus? I'm sorry to interrupt, but there's someone on the phone. She says it's urgent." "Can it wait?" "She says she's calling from the U.S. Attorney's office." The client raised an eyebrow. I excused myself. In my office, I picked up the phone. "Mr. Chen, this is Assistant U.S. Attorney Rebecca Park. I'm calling about your ex-wife, Diana Chen." "What about her?" "We've been investigating her and her associates for the past 18 months. Your divorce documentation was extremely helpful in building our case. I'm glad it was useful. The reason I'm calling is that we've moved to prosecution. We've indicted Diana Chen, Pierre Dumont, Thomas Webb, and several others on charges including wire fraud, mail fraud, conspiracy, and identity theft." I sat down. "All of them?" "All of them. The trial is scheduled for next month. We'll need you to testify." "About what?" "The forgeries, the insurance policy, the financial diversion. You're the primary victim. Your testimony is essential." I'd known this was possible. David had warned me from the beginning that criminal charges could follow the civil case. But hearing it made real was different. "I'll be there." "Thank you, Mr. Chen. My office will be in touch with details." After I hung up, I sat for a while, looking out the window, thinking. Diana was going to prison, not just losing the divorce, not just losing custody, not just losing her reputation. Prison. I'd wanted consequences. I'd demanded them. But this was more than I'd imagined. I called David. "I just heard from the U.S. Attorney." "I know. They contacted me this morning." "You didn't tell me?" "I wanted to let you finish your meeting first. Is the hotel project moving forward?" "David." "Right. Yes, the prosecution. What are you thinking?" I'm not sure what I'm thinking." "If you're having second thoughts, no. She did what she did. She needs to face it." I turned away from the window. But it's strange. For 18 years, I shared my life with her. And now I'm going to sit in a courtroom and testify against her. You're going to tell the truth. That's all." "Is that all?" David was quiet for a moment. "Marcus, I've seen a lot of cases like this. People who got defrauded by partners, spouses, family members. And I'll tell you something I've learned." "What's that?" "The guilt you're feeling right now, that's normal. Expected even. It means you're a decent person who doesn't enjoy seeing others suffer, even when they deserve it. But Diana made her choices. She forged your signature. She stole your money. She took out an insurance policy that suggests she was planning something much worse than divorce. None of that was your doing." "I know." "Then let the justice system do its job. Testify honestly, and then move on. Move on. It's the only way through." The trial lasted 3 weeks. I testified on the 4th day, walked into the federal courthouse downtown, took the stand, and answered questions for 6 hours. The prosecutor led me through everything: how Diana and I met, how we built a life together, how I discovered the Paris apartment, the forgeries, the scheme. I presented documents, explained financial records, identified evidence. Then Diana's attorney cross-examined me. He tried everything, suggested I was exaggerating, implied I was vindictive, asked whether Diana's affair justified me destroying her life. I answered every question calmly, truthfully. When he asked if I'd ever loved Diana, I said yes. When he asked if I'd ever failed her as a husband, I said probably sometimes, the way everyone fails the people they love. When he asked if I felt any guilt about what was happening to her, I said yes. That seemed to throw him. You feel guilty? Even after everything she did? I feel guilty that I didn't notice sooner, that I was so focused on work that I missed the signs. If I'd been paying attention, maybe this wouldn't have gone as far as it did. So you admit you were an absentee husband. I admit I worked a lot. I admit I sometimes prioritized the firm over family time. But I never forged Diana's signature. I never stole her money. I never took out an insurance policy with intent to defraud. I wasn't perfect. Diana wasn't a victim. The courtroom was very quiet. The jury deliberated for 2 days, guilty on all counts. Diana was sentenced to 8 years. Pierre received 6. He cut a deal and testified against some of the others in the network, people involved in similar schemes across Europe. Thomas Webb got 4 years. Rachel Monroe, the disbarred attorney, got 3. I watched the sentencing from the back of the courtroom. Diana didn't look at me. Not once. She kept her eyes forward, chin up, maintaining dignity even as the judge pronounced her fate. When it was over, when the bailiffs led her away in handcuffs, I left the courthouse. Outside, the sun was shining. Chicago in spring, the kind of day that makes you glad to be alive. I walked to Millennium Park, sat on a bench near the Bean, watched people taking photos, chasing kids, living their ordinary lives. Diana was going to prison. Pierre was going to prison. The scheme that had almost destroyed me was over, completely, finally, irreversibly over. I waited to feel triumphant, vindicated, something. What I felt was tired, not disappointed, not regretful, just exhausted. 3 years of deception, 18 months of investigation and legal proceedings, a marriage that had been a lie for longer than I wanted to admit. It was done. All of it. And now I had to figure out what came next. A conversation. Lily flew in for a long weekend after the verdict. We sat on the back porch of the house she'd grown up in, drinking iced tea, watching the evening light fade. "How do you feel?" she asked. "Honestly, I don't know. That seems to be your standard answer these days. It's an honest one." Lily smiled. She'd grown up since starting college, more confident, more herself. "I watched some of the trial coverage online," she said. "Your testimony was really restrained." I tried to be fair. "To Mom? To the truth, which includes the fact that your mother was a complicated person who did terrible things but wasn't entirely evil." "That's generous of you." "It's accurate." Lily pulled her feet up onto the chair, wrapped her arms around her knees. The gesture was exactly like something she'd done as a child, and for a moment I felt the time collapse between then and now. "I got a letter from her," Lily said. "From prison, the first one. Are you going to read it?" "I already did." I waited. "She apologized. Not for what she did to you. She still kind of blames you for that, says you drove her away. But she apologized for what she did to me, for treating me like a... What did that email say? Leverage. Yeah, she apologized for that." Do you believe her? Lily considered. I believe she's sorry she got caught. I believe she misses me. I'm not sure I believe she understands why what she did was wrong. That's very perceptive. I've had a lot of time to think about it. Are you going to write back? Maybe. Not yet. But maybe someday. Lily looked at me. Is that okay? It's your decision. Whatever you choose, I'll support you. Even if I decide to visit her? Even then. You're being very mature about this. I've had a lot of time to think about it, too. We sat in comfortable silence. Dad? Yeah? Thank you. For what? For fighting. For not letting her destroy us. For building a case instead of just falling apart. I couldn't fall apart. You needed me. You could have. A lot of people would have. But you didn't. I reached over and squeezed her hand. That's what fathers do. Not all of them. Then I'm glad I'm one of the ones who does. A new beginning. A year after the trial, I met someone. Her name was Claire. She was an environmental engineer. We were introduced at a conference on sustainable building design. She'd never been married, had no dramatic backstory, laughed easily and often. Our first date was coffee. Our second was dinner. Our third was a walk along the lakefront that lasted 4 hours because neither of us wanted it to end. I should tell you something, I said as we sat on a bench watching the water. About your ex-wife? I already know. I looked you up. You looked me up? Everyone looks people up. It's the modern world, she smiled. The trial was in the news. I read about it. And you still wanted to go out with me? I figured if you could survive something like that, you were probably pretty resilient. Claire turned to face me. Also, I liked your buildings. The South Loop project is beautiful. Thank you. You're welcome. She leaned into me, just slightly. Is this the part where you warn me you have trust issues? Do I need to warn you? Probably, but I've been warned, and I'm still here. Why? Because I like you, and because I think people who've been through hard things are more interesting than people who haven't. I laughed, the first genuine laugh in longer than I could remember. That's one way to look at it. It's my way. Take it or leave it. I took it. The present I'm writing this 3 years after that afternoon in Gerald's office. 3 years since a single line item on a bank statement unraveled everything I thought I knew about my life. A lot has changed. Diana is still in prison. She has 4 years left on her sentence. I don't think about her often anymore, but when I do, I feel something I didn't expect to feel. Compassion, not forgiveness. What she did was unforgivable, but compassion for someone who was so broken, so lost, that she thought the only way forward was to destroy the person who loved her. Diana will get out eventually. She'll have to rebuild. I hope she does it honestly this time. For her sake, and for Lily's. Lily and I talk every week. She's thriving in New York. Her photography has been exhibited in 2 small galleries, and she's working on a documentary project about immigrant communities in Queens. She's happy. She's healthy. She's become the person I always hoped she could be. Claire and I have been together for 2 years now. We're talking about moving in together, taking it slow. Neither of us is in a hurry. The firm just broke ground on the South Loop project. $200 million of construction, 300 homes, a new piece of Chicago's skyline. I built that. I built all of it, and I almost lost all of it to someone I trusted. That's the lesson, I think. The one I keep coming back to. Trust is necessary. Trust is essential. You can't build anything worthwhile, a company, a family, a life, without trusting the people around you. But trust has to be informed, has to be verified, has to be paired with vigilance, attention, the willingness to see what you might not want to see. Diana counted on my trust, exploited it, used it as cover for years of deception and theft. I'll never be that naive again. But I won't let her betrayal make me paranoid either. I won't let it destroy my capacity to believe in people, to open up, to love. That would be letting her win. And Diana doesn't get to win. I do. We all do. Everyone who's been hurt and survived. Everyone who's been lied to and found the truth. Everyone who's been knocked down and gotten back up. We win by living, by building, by refusing to let the people who hurt us define who we become. That's my story. All of it. Start to finish. Thanks for listening. If this story resonated with you, if you've been through something similar, or if you're going through it now, I want you to know that you're not alone. There are resources out there, legal help, financial counseling, therapists who specialize in betrayal trauma, people who understand what you're going through and can help you find your way through. Don't be afraid to ask for help. I couldn't have survived this without Gerald, David, Francis, Mariana, and all the others who supported me. Everyone needs a team. Build yours. And if you found value in this story, if it taught you something, or warned you about something, or just kept you company for a while, consider sharing it. Not for me. For the people in your life who might need to hear it. The friend who's in a relationship that doesn't feel right. The family member who's too trusting for their own good. The colleague who never checks their bank statements. The truth can save people, but only if it reaches them in time. That's all for now. Take care of yourselves. Watch where your money goes. And remember, numbers don't lie, but people do.